As outlandish as it is to say, the Cleveland Cavaliers may have a very, very dark future ahead of them, maybe even darker than the pre-LeBron era and when LeBron left for the Miami Heat. So let's take a look at the season that they had. They have Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. None of those pieces fit together necessarily, but despite that, they are outperforming every expectation that they had coming into the season. Arguably, at one point, Donovan Mitchell was having an MVP caliber season, but then he got hurt. So now you are relying on your young guys, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, to lead the charge in Donovan's absence. And it doesn't go the way that you wanted it to. You weren't awful by any stretch. There was even a stretch there where they had, I think, routed off like 5 or 6 games in a row without Donovan Mitchell, which was a very, very promising glimpse into the future that you could have. So then we get to the playoffs, we're playing Orlando, we are pretty confident that we're going to win the series. It goes to 7, Orlando puts up a fight, but you take care of business, you send them packing, and now you go up against the Boston Celtics. And there is where the wheels start to fall off a little bit, I think. The Celtics, on paper, shouldn't have a problem with anybody in the East. They do not have Kristaps Porzingis, which is a huge part of their offense, but even at that point, you still have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you have Drew Holiday, you have Derek White, who's playing out of his mind. So Cleveland already has an uphill battle to start. But then you start to struggle with injuries. Jared Allen is battling a hip injury. Donovan Mitchell goes out again with injury. So again, you are reliant on Darius Garland and Evan Mobley to take strides and to get a couple games off of someone who is a NBA champion favorite in the Celtics. And while Darius Garland did have good games and bad, and while Evan Mobley, especially in the last 3 games of that series, had very, very good games and give glimpses into what he could be as a player, it just didn't work out. So you got sent home in 5. But even at that point, even when you look at that and go, wow, this is probably the lowest that we could possibly be as a team, it gets even lower than that. As soon as the horn sounds, even before the body is cold, we are then bombarded with these stories from guys like Woj and Shams and Brian Windhorst about the Cleveland Cavaliers team, and none of it is exactly a glowing review of the talent and the personnel that they have. First, it starts off with Darius Garland or someone in his camp leaking that he is going to request a trade if Donovan Mitchell gets extended this offseason. When that happens, almost within like 10 minutes of that story, another story comes out about Donovan Mitchell being unhappy with how immature and how unprepared that team was to go into the playoffs and win a couple games and win a couple series. Now, it should be said that Donovan Mitchell has come out and refuted those stories personally, like he went out of his way to say, nope, that is cap, that didn't happen, blah, blah, blah. But it is interesting that that story come out, but it doesn't stop there. And then another story comes out where the Cavs organization themselves are frustrated with Jared Allen because he wouldn't get an injection to play through his rib injury. So they're upset that he doesn't have the mental toughness to go through a playoff series hurt while he was actually hurt or injured in whatever case it may be. But the front office is now upset with one of its players rather than the inverse. And lastly, you have a story about Evan Mobley, who I should say from a fan, as a Celtics fan, I want Evan Mobley on my basketball team as bad as I want to breathe. He had 3 fantastic games and it proved and it gave glimpses into the player that I know that he to a natural 5. And if he's able to do that, if he's able to play a defensive center who could occasionally stretch the floor, you're going to get more out of him than a 4 that is required to guard 1 through 5 and stretch the floor and make sure that that offense works, especially when you have players like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland who are so explosive and can get downhill quick. It's hard to expect someone to hit a 3 when that isn't their game. So shift him to the with me. Have a good day, and most importantly, tell somebody you love them.